Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to look at the pronunciation of this letter C in Spanish. Okay, for starters we should say in Spanish that the name of this letter is C, okay? We call it C. And in Spanish it's got two sounds. We can pronounce it in two different ways depending on what comes after it, okay? So in Spanish we've got this letter, we come across this letter, and these are the two possible pronunciations, okay? One possible pronunciation is k, okay? So a bit similar to a K, yeah? K. When am I going to pronounce this letter as k, okay? K, in three cases. So when this C is before an A, okay? So this will be ka, ka. When this C is before an O, sorry, ko, and when this C is before a U, ku, okay? So this is ka, this is ko, and this is ku, okay? Ka, ko, ku. Let's look at a few words, at some words that contain this sound in them, okay? So let's have a look. An example of a word with ka, okay, would be, for example, acabar, acabar, to finish, acabar, okay? An example of ko would be, for example, in comer, comer, to eat, comer. An example of ku would be, for example, cuidar, cuidar, to look after. This is a U, by the way, and not a very pretty one. Cuidar, to look after, okay? Acabar, comer, cuidar, okay? So this happens when this C is in front of A, O, U. Ka, ko, ku. Not too complicated there. Now, what happens when instead of before A, O, U, we find it before E or I? Right, so what happens is that instead of saying k, we'll say th, okay? I'll say this sound again, th. If you're into your phonetic alphabet, this sound is represented by a symbol which is a little bit like this, okay? If you're an English speaker, as I suppose you quite likely are, you might want to represent this sound as something a bit like this, okay? It's a th, th. It's a very typical Spanish sound, isn't it? Th. So this C is going to sound th in front of E and I, okay? So when I come across this, I'm going to say th, th. An example of this is the word cenar, sorry, cenar, okay? Cenar, to have dinner, cenar. And when I come across this, I'm going to say thi, thi. For example, vecina, vecina, neighbor, vecina, okay? So let's go through this again. This would be ka, this would be ko, this is ku, this is ce, and this is thi, okay? Now, some of you might be looking at this and thinking, oh my goodness, this is complicated. Some of you might be looking at this and thinking, well, actually, something very similar happens in English, okay? In English, most of the time, I would say K, ko, Q, and here I would say C or something like this, C, psi, okay? So in English, you also have two different sounds for this letter. So it's not a million miles away from what happens in English, okay? So I'll go through this again. Just to remind you, one possible sound is k, k, as in ka, ko, ku. Another possible sound is th, as in the and thi. Okay, at this point, I need to probably do a little disclaimer, okay, a little warning. And it's that I am from Barcelona, I'm from northern Spain, and this is the way I would pronounce it. This is the way how probably in most of Spain we will find it, okay, this the and thi. The ka, ko, ku is the same for every Spanish speaker. The and thi will be different. In most of Spain, you will find the and the. However, in the south of Spain, in the Canary Islands, and in the vast majority of Latin America, you won't find this pronounced as th. You will find it pronounced as an S, se. Okay, so these will be se and these will be si. Okay, so if you hear someone saying cenar instead of cenar, or saying vecina instead of vecina, it's perfectly correct as well. Okay, it just depends on what variety of Spanish that person is speaking. And in your case as well, if you're learning Spanish with someone, we'll be speaking Spanish with someone who's from Latin America, the Canary Islands, that's what you're going to come across. Okay, so they're not wrong, it's completely correct. It just depends on where the speaker is from. Okay. So this is pretty much it for the pronunciation of the C. The last thing, the very last thing I want to mention is what happens when instead of one C, we've got two Cs, okay? For example, we've got words in Spanish like this one, which means action, or like this one, which means conviction. So what happens with these two C's? Do we pronounce them as k? Do we pronounce them as th? Does it matter? Yes, it does matter. When we come across two C's together, okay, what happens is the first one will sound like a K, okay? Ak. And the second one will sound like a TH, like the British TH, or this little symbol, th. Okay, so this word in Spanish is acción, acción. This word in Spanish, think about it, if this is acción, this one will be, and I want you to be thinking about it, okay, this one will be convicción, okay, acción, convicción. So whenever you find two C's together, the first one sounds k, the second one sounds th, acción, convicción. And that's pretty much it for the sounds of the C's. Thank you very much. Bye.